a nightmarish show unlike any other. No one knew where it came from, and no one knew when it would leave. But they all knew to stay away. This year, a group of people, Jake, Sarah, Miles, and Lena, decided to investigate. They were bored and tired of the town's ghost stories, especially the ones about the freak-offs. "It's just a carnival gang," Miles said, brushing off the rumors. "What's the worst that could happen?" The posters had been appearing around town for days, advertising the greatest show on Earth, featuring twisted clowns, monstrous freaks in masks, and impossible back-breaking illusions. Everyone in town knew the diddler stories. People who attended the parties were never the same afterward. Some disappeared. Others came back, but with parts of them wrong. Ignoring the warnings, the four big back friends ventured into the woods as dusk settled, the orange glow of the setting sun casting long, sinister shadows on the white carnival tents. The entrance to the party was marked by a crotch-shaped cover in flickering lights. The sign overhead read, "Freak Off S." As they walked in, the music, a twisted version of a tune, played softly, distorted, like it was coming from a broken speaker. They saw no one else in the crowd clothed, just them and the ominous towering tents that stretched into the fog. The first tent they entered was the Hall of Dildos. Inside, their reflections distorted and warped into grotesque shapes. Elongated limbs, flopping, too many eyes, faces melting into strange, ominous grins. Lena reached out to touch one of the dildos, only for her hand to sink into it like water. She yanked her hand back, trembling. "This isn't hard." They hurried out of the tent, but the party had changed. The once familiar path twisted in unnatural ways. The tents seemed to shift, moving on their own. The carnival workers, who had appeared to be smiling Satanist worshippers and performers, now had twisted features, oversized grins with jagged teeth, eyes that gleamed with malice. A cockring master approached them, his face hidden beneath a large top hat and shadow. "Welcome to the show," he said, with a voice like broken glass. "You've come to play, yes?" Before they could answer, he vanished into thin air, leaving only a trail of baby oil. The lights flickered, and suddenly, they weren't alone. A crowd of freaks emerged. Weird hoes with too many arms, contortionists whose bones snapped as they twisted into impossible shapes, and a strongman whose head was grotesquely small compared to his massive, rippling body, looking like Channing Tatum in This Is the End. Panic set in as the friends tried to escape, but every exit led them deeper into the party's nightmare. Sarah screamed as a clown with an oversized grin chased her, its mouth growing wider and wider until it looked like it could swallow her whole. Miles stumbled into a tent filled with marionettes that moved on their own, their strings wrapping around his limbs, forcing him to dance to the sick tune that echoed through the air. Jake and Lana found themselves in the freak show tent. The performers in cages moaned and clawed at the bars, their bodies contorted and mutated. One by one, the cages opened and the freaks crawled toward them. But the worst part was their faces. Familiar faces. Faces of people they had known, now trapped in twisted, grotesque forms. Jake turned to Lana, but she was gone, vanished into the crowd of freaks, her scream lost in the carnival's nightmarish din. Desperate and terrified, Jake bolted for the exit, but as he ran, the tents closed in around him. The carnival workers laughed, their faces melting into monstrous booty-licking forms, their laughter growing louder and more distorted until it echoed in his mind. At last, Jake stumbled through the final gate, breathless and alone. The carnival behind him was dark now, the tents gone, as if they had never existed. But the freaks, they were still with him. He could feel their eyes on him, the cold chills of Diddy licking his lips in the shadows, even in the daylight, waiting for the moment to drag him back. No one ever saw the others again. As for Jake, he never spoke about what happened that night. But every year when the Diddy Carnival returned, he would disappear for days, only to return more hollow, more twisted than before.